Guys, this was as complete a game as we've seen them play, to be quite honest with you. Complimentary football. The defense did what the defense did, but this offense, after, again, just 2 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks, 3 today, and the story starts and ends with Zach Wilson trying to save his career, and today was a good first step for him.
Yeah, and I mean, it was tough sledding in the first half, right? Because both teams were still jacked up on Mountain Dew, led by their defense. And, the second half, the levee broke. And, Zach Wilson, his decision-making was impeccable. Outside of the fumble, he played a pretty clean game. But also the running attempts, right? And we saw Breece Hall be used as a weapon. It's so effortless when you just get the ball in his hands in space and he can, get an opportunity to run and, be physical at the point of attack. And we talk about this all the time, how important it was to have rush attempts. It's not so much about the yardage, it's about the rush attempts. And you can see that in the second half when it still was a ball game. You can see the physicality start to wear on them. You can see Rutgers getting involved in the running game. You can see them coming off on those double teams like, linemen like to do, like Willie always talks about. They like to fire off, and that's what linemen prefer to do. Now, Mekhi Becton struggled a little bit today, but everybody has off days, but it didn't hinder the team from being able to get the end result. So you have to tip your cap to them. 30-6. I don't know what's going on in the NFL with this offensive explosion. Started with the Patriots, couldn't score 10 points, and they put up 3 touchdowns in the first half, and just trickled down. And the Jets, they needed this. They needed this in the worst way, to kind of stick together.
They really did for their young players who had massive games. It's not just Zach Wilson. Breece Hall had a big day receiving. Garrett Wilson got peppered with targets and made the most of them. He had a big day. But I think the storyline, of course, will be Zach Wilson. He deserves that. He played really well today. But I think just as big is that Nathaniel Hackett had his best game. It felt like the Jets actually were exploiting the opposition's weakness for the first time I can remember this season. The Texans, they dealt with a couple injuries at linebacker. They were a little over-aggressive, that front four, with some young players there. And the Jets attacked the middle of the field. They got Breece matched up against linebackers. They threw a couple seam balls to Conklin. It sounds like something very simple, but Hackett, who was calling this game from the booth that we saw, and he doesn't always do that, he's on the sideline sometimes, he actually was seeing things and calling the flow of the game where the Texans would punch one way and the Jets would counter-punch another way. So, and the balance of the run and the pass coincides with that success as well. So a good game for Nathaniel Hackett, who needed one just as badly as Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I was impressed with Zach's mentality and poise in the pocket, especially coming off the bench, right? You would expect him to kind of try to do more than he was asked, but he didn't do it. He just let the game come to him, and he was able to complete a lot of big throws. But coming out in the second half, I felt like he willed his team to victory, right? He felt like, you know what? We said in the pregame, you got to let it rip, kid. Like, this is ground zero. Let it go. And I think he came out in the second half and said, you know what? I'm gonna be the difference that he was.
Well, he certainly came out in the